means.
Okay, so both parties have to re-examine their actions and the way they responded to all of this, because...
No, in fact, one of things we agreed is that when such cases happen, try and reach out to the leadership of the communities. For instance, if the person involved is an Igbo person, we have town unions, we have community unions, and believe you me, in every town union, people are encouraged to join. If they don't see you first meeting, like yesterday was first Sunday, most communities in Lagos had their meetings. They don't see you one, the next month they don't see you, they send somebody to look for you. And if they don't see you, they go to the hospital. They go to the mortuary, they go to the prisons, they go to police stations. Nobody has ever thought of going to a rehabilitation home. So now we know there is also another place. So before you get to the stage of what do we do with this person, let people know. The government has the press, owned and controlled by it, so it can always make the information. But His Excellency also read names of some of the people. He said there were 14, not 67. Fine. 67, 14 is actually the implementation of the policy that we are quarreling with. We have nothing against rehabilitation. If a man is living under the bridge, that is not healthy. Rehabilitate him. Give him a bed space.
I mean, because no state wants the state to be littered with such persons across the country. Everybody wants development to go on.
No states.
Mr. Wazuki, I'm actually seeing this from a different perspective now, because let's first of all look at trauma. Because the homeless man is already traumatized, and if he has a family, the family will be more traumatized not getting any information as to his whereabouts. So if we have people who are members of staff of Kick Against Indiscipline in Lagos, and they go out, pounce on people, because I mean, we've actually seen some of them pounce on Lagosians or people, but you would think that these are people who engage in street trading, and since it has been outlawed in most parts of the state, then one should have thought that they were actually effecting that particular law. But you say they pounce on some of these people, take their phones without contacting perhaps a friend or relatives, and take them to this rehabilitation center. After rehabilitation, what does the state government say to you people? Do they try to get across to the families after rehabilitation is over?
No, he does say they were not doing that. He said they will now segment them. You are Igbo, you are Akwa Ibom, you are from the north, you are from here and there. And they will write. For instance, they wrote to Katsina State. Writing to Katsina State is irrelevant. Because most of those people who call Hausa Fulani here are not even from Nigeria. They are not Nigerians. The fact that they speak Hausa or Hausa-related language does not mean anything. So if you write to Katsina, Katsina will just look at you and ignore you, knowing very well that the Hausa Fulani man does not do Megad. All these gate men will call Malam are not from Nigeria. So, yes, the governor gave us an example of Akwa Ibom that responded. Remember, it is voluntary. But we're talking of the right of the individual, not government-to-government reactions to anything.
Good enough, you're a lawyer. Perhaps you can spell out such rights again for people watching.
Under the Constitution, the fundamental rights, we have sections 35 to 41 that actually are germane to what we're discussing this morning. And what are we discussing? The Constitution guarantees you the right to reside anywhere without discrimination. The Constitution guarantees you the right to freedom of movement. The Constitution guarantees you the right to assemble and hold opinion and to your own religion. And also, nobody must be discriminated against on the basis of where he comes from. And the Constitution also gave exceptions, except in obedience to a court order, which is when they put you in prison, you have lost your right to liberty. When you have become a nuisance, the court can also say, do this or do that. I'll just give you a good example. These street traders you referred to, Majidu is not a prison. No state government has the right to run a prison. So all these ones that grab you and put you in a cell in a Laos, that is wrong. No state government has a right. It's false imprisonment. So all they do is they get you, take you to the nearest court. Court will hear you. If the court says you're hereby sentenced to imprisonment of 1 day, 1 week, 2 months, you go to prison. Recently, we were in Kirikiri. First as a lawyer, we were there. Then as a knight, we were all there to help some of those who are waiting trial. You see somebody 3 months imprisonment on 10,000 naira option of fine. And the man is there. They gave us a long list, Knights of Semulumba, when we were there, to pay all those bills for them. Some want to help themselves. We paid for their school certificate examination, many of them. So these are the ones who mentally are still redeemable.
Did you try to find out from the state government? Because, I mean, I've also seen people who speak Yoruba language who also live under the bridge, and some of them are actually not from other parts of the country. Let's say those who are also Lagosians that are also destitute. Where were they taken to?
Our discussion did not get to all those people. Remember the basis on which we came, that the government of Anambra State screamed. In fact, the Sun newspaper was the first to show the pictures and gave a certain number. Anambra State government came and said 67. Lagos State government came and said, oh, 14, but we were justified and defended the action. So for us that day, it was an opportunity to tell the governor face to face, this is the reality on the ground. And please pity those in government, those in office. Any governor that you go to today, all he knows is what was presented. He doesn't read newspapers, does not watch TV unless once in a while. Every morning they brief him and say, sir, this is the situation. And then they underline the parts he has to read. So in a way, he's precluded from knowing what is actually going on. So when I addressed...
Until it blows up.
Yes, when I addressed him, I said, look at the facts on the ground. Yes, he was upset as a lawyer. How can he go ahead and do anything that is illegal and so on? But at the end of the day, we all agreed. One, communication has to be increased. Two, there will be many cases of reforms of both Kai and LASMA. And that we should also help and disseminate the information to people. If you have nothing doing, why don't you go home? And then the government means well. And we say, please, let there be no more infringement of people's rights. At the end of it, it was all smiles. And we said, fine, no more. None of those things should ever happen again.
But you know, one other thing that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb here, not just in Lagos. I mean, it happens in every part of the country, and people see them. Some gloss over it, but it's a very serious matter. You talked about false imprisonment, where agencies that are set up, they just pick you up, take you one place or the other. And in the best interest, I mean, yes, the states may be well-intended, but some of these processes, the way local government operates across the country, those people who are called local government officials, yeah, with due respect to the ones who are doing right, but so many of them, they act like bandits, actually. And so these are things that when we look at the way we act on the streets, it doesn't act or come across as though we're actually doing that with respect to the law. So many things need to be corrected.
Not only the quality of the personnel,
yeah,
but also the quality of the supervision. But we also said something like they said, Your Excellency, yes, you are not the person doing this, but because you are the governor, you are vicariously liable for anything done. These people, let's start with Kai. For them to do what they're doing, you must know the background. Most of them were those who were working for the party, either as thugs or people who were just not doing much. They were given a short training and they moved in. Which is why if they see an offending threat, they're ready to grab and fight. You and I will not fight physically. But they brought people who can fight. So if you have people in that mold, cases of lawlessness will always be there. So and as long as they're there, those who put them there will just look the other way. After all, they're doing what they want them to do. The local governments they're talking of, those ones are a law unto themselves. That's why most of the time they just pass through office without achieving anything. Who do they relate with? Agbero. Who is their PA? Agbero. Everything they do is at that level. But once in a while you have good people in office. And they now think of those people, retrain them, move their psyche towards respecting the rights of that victim. Remember, the destitute is a victim of the society that has neglected him. He has no reason to be under the bridge, which is why security and welfare make plans for him. Let me ask you, in this country, can a man in a wheelchair enter any bank? We never thought of that. Can he enter any bus? Or you have to carry him? It's because some of those basic things are being ignored.
Can we also look at the broader, perspective of how, is it that for instance now, we know that we have a problem of rural-urban migration. Anambra State cannot be categorized as a rural area, but I'm sure that even within it, it will have the problems of overpopulation in its cities. And, Lagos being a city as well, will definitely have
bigger ones.
Exactly. A bigger, population problem. Does it mean that all the other state governors, as soon as you're out of their territory, have no responsibility for you whatsoever?
Yes, you are the governor of all those residents in that state.
True.
Remember when we were meeting Fashola, we said, we are speaking as residents. We're not speaking as indigents of XYZ states. Let me ask you, when there is census, what happens? You count those residents in that state.
But what we have often found is that people now go home to...
No, that's wrong. The government preaches every time, don't go home, stay where you are, this is where you'll be counted. The government mounts that campaign. Also, when there is election time, when there is registration of voters, remember the government also mounts the same campaign. Don't go home, stay where you are. And at that moment, they don't care your state of origin.
We don't know how effective those campaigns have been.
Whether they're effective or not, but it is government policy that you stay there. And when you are voting as somebody who is registered in that state to vote. Nobody says, Yorubasia, Igbo Hausa, Fulani, Ishekiri. Nobody does that.
So it is why at this among state governments, you would actually say that, would you say then that the policy, because Lagos State claims that they're not the only one who has carried out this particular policy, and that they have had to go and pick their own citizens from other states as well. And we also see, during times of strife, for instance, in the last election, brouhaha, where there was some violence, a lot of state governments were going to go and pick up youth coppers that were sent, from their state. Are you saying that the state government of the state...
they were not going. They were sending vehicles, telling them,
pick them up.
If you want to. If you want to go, there's a vehicle available. It's different from saying, you come. They are not picking, they're only making available. I'll give you another example. Every Christmas season, most state governments send buses to Lagos and Abuja and say, indigents of our states, if you want to go home for Christmas, vehicle is free. I also know some people who on their own, some community unions, they on their own set buses and say, our people, if you want to go home, you are free. It's not compulsory. It's not mandatory. It's not punitive. See, let me put it this way. A madman has no relation until you kill him. Then his relations will come out.
Well, importantly, it's good to know that you met with the state government. You're all looking at way forward now. So people should not just unnecessarily attach any ethnic
the tension should die.
All of this.
All those things are over as far as we are concerned. We said no more. So the embers of hatred, which were being fanned by some people,
in the first place,
must stop. Otherwise, what is small may become big. And when it becomes too big for you to manage, you give up. This is how crisis will always start.
All right, Godwin Wazuke is the president of Ikenga. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right.